keep it real with ya.
Konnichiwa, minasan. Minu desu. Watashi no YouTube channel yokoso. Nihongo o Sadie. Sadie, stop it. Sadie. Will you go somewhere? Thank you. Nihongo benkyou itsumo hoshikatta. Naze nara, Nihon no eiga ga suki desu. Tokidoki anime o mimasu. Demo hora eiga ga daisuki. 2017年 hitori de Nihon o ryoko shimashita. And that's all I'm gonna do on that because I don't want to have to translate an entire video, and also I probably couldn't keep it up that long, to be honest. But like I said earlier, I had always wanted to learn Japanese simply because I really, really loved Japanese movies, particularly Japanese horror films. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I know they have Ring, and I know they have The Grudge, but what else do they have? Turns out a lot of movies. There was this website I used to go to that's gone now. It was so many pop-ups, but it was basically where you could watch all Asian horror films, and there was so many Japanese horror films. Of course, you have the Junji Ito horror films like Tomie, Uzumaki. They made an anime adaptation of Gyo. I don't think a lot of people liked it, but I ain't got to see it yet. You also had things like Tokyo Gore Police, Battle Royale. There are a lot of Japanese horror movies. I was surprised. But also, one of the things that I was really into that told me that I wanted to learn Japanese and I wanted to go to Japan one day was the different urban legends that went into some of the horror films that I saw, like the Kuchisake Onna, who is the split mouth woman. You might see some pictures of her where she's got some scissors and her mouth is cut open and always in a grimace or a smile. And I would look at this stuff and I'd be like, oh, this is so interesting. I want to know the history behind it. I want to know where these people came from. Just like how in America, you want to know where the Wolfman came from, or Dracula, or zombies. I kind of wanted to know the history behind these people. And I found out that a lot of movies in anime come from either manga or novels that are written in Japan that become popular. So I wanted to read Japanese novels. I wanted to read Japanese manga. Just to, it just all was really interesting to me. And I really loved the stories. They were so unique. They were so different than what I was used to watching in America. So I really got into that. Sadie, get down. Come on. Down, baby. Thank you. I know it's a little bright right now. It's because it's storming outside. I don't have any natural lights. I had to turn on this incandescent light in case you hear the thunderstorms. It's storming right now. But yeah, I was really into that. And so the only thing I knew when I was young, I didn't really have anything to look forward to. But I was like, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to Japan. That was my only thing. And so when I went to college, I ended up at a college that did not offer any study abroad in Japanese, did not offer Japanese courses. But the only other school that did, I didn't want to go to. So what I ended up doing in college was I think I took 2 courses at the other school. And then I found this program online where I could study abroad in Japan. So I went through IES abroad. I want to say I recommend it, but not for Japan, just because the people who are involved with that particular program were not on their stuff. They never communicated with me. I was always in the dark about everything. And the Japanese guy who was, in charge of the program was very rude to Black people. So I I didn't really like it. I mean, would I have gone back if I had the opportunity? Yeah, because I want to go to Japan. But not that guy. That guy made me very upset. But yeah, so I ended up taking out student loans to go to Japan because, of course, I should have had some kind of major where they would have paid for it, but I didn't. So when I went, I was really by myself. The only people who were there that were in my program were from other states. There wasn't even anybody from my state. It was just, there was some people who were from like the Midwest. They were a problem. So when I got there, I was completely in the dark. Like I'm hopping off the plane. It was my first time riding on a plane, and I was on a plane for like 19 hours. It was scary as hell. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. Fortunately, there was this black girl with a Nikoski shirt on, and I was like, you're in my program. Yeah, I know you are. So I just kind of followed her. And so I just like followed her, and I ended up finding out where everybody was because, again, nobody was communicating with me. I didn't get any text messages, any calls. I just had to figure everything out on my own. And maybe if my college was more involved with the program, I would have gotten more communication. But I didn't. So it was just kind of like me solo dolo. One of the first things I did when I got to Japan that everybody else did was we went to McDonald's. we wanted to do the teriyaki burger and all of that stuff. And it was all right. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of teriyaki anyway, but it was all right. My group, you could tell that some people came from a place of privilege in my group. That was the white people who they didn't really care about learning. And I was there the program involved me taking a class and also going on these like cultural excursions and stuff. They didn't care about the class. They didn't care whether they made good grades or not. They was literally there just to we partying in Japan on our parents' dime. But because I didn't have the benefits that they had where they could actually take intensive Japanese courses at home and actually have like these Japanese exchange programs and actually get opportunities to speak it, I was really, really focused on taking my classes and doing all my homework and, making sure that my Japanese was improving. And so I didn't get to go out and party. I didn't go to the clubs in Shibuya. My cohorts did. I didn't. I was at home doing homework, trying to get my grades straight, trying to make sure that I'm like following along everything right and that I'm passing the exams. Some of the cultural excursions we went to Akihabara, which for the weebs who want to go to Japan, that's where you want to go. That's where all the, all your anime figurines and, your manga, that's where all that stuff's going to be. And it's nice. I mean, it's not fancy or anything. You could tell it's for nerds. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's like a lot of tall buildings, and each floor has all these different shops with all these different souvenirs for whichever anime you're into, whether it's like One Piece and Naruto. So if I had gone to buy stuff, I would have done it. But I didn't have as much money to blow as everybody else. Even though I had took out loans for the program, I still had to come up with a certain amount of money out of pocket. I started a GoFundMe and everything for it. So I didn't really feel like I could just go and just buy everything. And also I was like, how the fuck I'm gonna get all this shit home in my duffel bag? I just did not go to buy souvenirs. And next time I go, I'm buying a lot of shit, best believe. So we went to Akihabara. I went to an onsen for the first time. I think it was the first night I was there. We stayed in a hotel before going into Tokyo. And it was very scary because you naked. And the fun thing about it was that there was, I was worried that, I'm a big black woman. I'm gonna be butt ass naked with these other Asian women. They're gonna be looking at me crazy. And there was this big white woman who was like, look, hey, I'm big, you big, let's go together. It'll be fine. I was like, okay, thank goodness. We can stand together, even though they'll probably be looking at me a little harder. But I took off my glasses when I went in, so I couldn't see everybody to kind of help with the anxiety. And for the most part, though, people were really, really nice. Some people tried to speak Spanish to me because I don't think they could understand where I was from exactly. I had a straight weave at the time, so I don't know where they thought that I was from. But, you sat next to some people and they would come up and they'd be like, oh, are you from America? Like, where are you from? The people who could speak English, a couple people could, but most people was like, oh, talking to you in Japanese, like, where are you from? And all of that. And we would tell them. And even though I had took 2 courses at that other college in America, my Japanese still wasn't that good, simply because the college that I took the classes at was a college I didn't want to go to. And it was because it was one of them colleges where you could just do whatever. You didn't have to show up. It wasn't very intensive like the college I actually chose to go to. So if my college had taught Japanese, I probably would have been way better at it. But I'm not. And the funny thing was that one of my senseis from Japanese in America was doing a summer program in Japan. And so I ran into her, and she could tell just from me being there and just being immersed in the language and being around people that my Japanese had improved greatly. And it's not that, I really hung out a lot with the cohort. I mean, obviously we were together when we were on our excursions, like we went to Mount Fuji, went to a place called Asakusa. We went on several excursions together, and I kind of got to know a couple people, would they be like, oh, we're going to Shibuya? And I'm like, okay, I'm going with you to Shibuya. We're going to Harajuku. I'm going with y'all to Harajuku. But we weren't really close. And I think it was very different for me because these were people who came knowing each other. They were in college together. They took class together. They knew each other. And I kind of was just like the odd one out. And there was this one white girl who I tried to be friendly with. She was from the Midwest. And we went to a couple places together. I got to have some Japanese KFC. It was still KFC. I was very disappointed, but it was still KFC. But me and her relationship went sour quickly when she started acting racist. And I was very upset because the thing about Japan that I came to understand is that, of course, some people there have very limited to no experience with Black people. And so some of them may only know things from movies. So, of course, some of them might drop the N-word because they think that that's how we talk to each other. And, I had patience with them. Some of them were just too scared to talk to me. They didn't know if I spoke Japanese. They were nervous. Some of them, if they spoke English, they'd be like, I speak English, I'm going to talk to you. And it was fine. I didn't really get, other than that one Japanese guy who worked for IES, I didn't really get a lot of aggression or, dislike from the Japanese people there. But this one white girl who I was hanging out with, one time we were at on a cultural excursion, and we were looking at the Shinkansen, I think it's what it's called, and it was the train. It was like a museum talking about the different trains and everything like that. And I was eating vending machine food because there's vending machines everywhere. And I think it was vending machine chicken nuggets. Yeah, it was chicken nuggets. And I was like, this is weird, but I'm going to try it out. Why not? I'm here. Let me do this. And so she was looking at me eating it. And then she was like, oh, are those chicken niggers? And I was like, the fuck did you just say? And I laughed it off at first. I was like, wait, what? Like, obviously it was a slip of the tongue in my mind, but I was like, how you get nigger from nuggets? Like, what? How did that happen? Was that a Freudian slip? Like, how did that happen? And she was, very upset about it. She was like, no, I meant to say chicken nuggers. And I was like, huh? But I let it slide. I really let it slide. I didn't care. I just let's just move on. It's just slip of the tongue. But later and we were staying at this big hostel that was specifically for education. Like, there's no way our program would have been able to stay there if we weren't taking classes in the building. And it was going to be the site of the 2020 Japan Olympics had they got to have it. But there was some people who I think they were maybe from South Asia who were coming through, and they looked, if you ain't seen Black people in America, you probably think that they were Black. they had some of them had dark skin, but it was obvious listening to them talk that they were from like a South Asian country. And she was bothered by this white girl. She was just like, there's like a lot of Black people here. Like, it's like she got uncomfortable. Like, she's like, there's so many Black people here. And she just kept saying that. And I was like, First of all, they ain't even black. Like those are South Asian people. Second of all, even if they was, what the fuck is your problem? And so that kind of made me, and then everybody also kind of got the sense they was like, yeah, something ain't right about her. And so everybody just kind of like, ever since when she slipped up and said nigger, everybody was like, okay, this girl's kind of racist. And she was really offended by it. She thought that I was mad at her and that I was like spreading rumors about her and all of that. But it really was just like, you the one saying weird stuff. Like, just stop saying weird stuff and it won't be no problem. But you kept saying weird stuff. So then she got into the point where she got mad at me, and then we ended up working on this project, and I'll upload the video. My Japanese was really rough just because it was like I made up what I wanted to talk about, and then I was given the script to say it rather than actually knowing how to say it. So it was a little different than something that I actually know how to say, like the stuff I said at the beginning. But we ended up working on a project together, and she didn't want to work with me, but we had to. But she didn't want to work with me because she was mad that I was like ruining her reputation with the other people. So I ended up having to go to my teacher and let them know, like, hey, I'm trying to work with her, but she don't like me. Because really, I wanted to slap the bitch. I ain't gonna lie to you. She was mad at me because she was saying racist things. So people was looking at her different. Like, that ain't got shit to do with me, ma'am. That was you. But I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to go to Japanese jail. I don't know how it is, but the crime rate in Japan is low as fuck. And I felt like if I went to jail, I was going to stay there. America ain't sending nobody to come get me. Okay. So I was like, don't cause any problems here. Just let it go. And so then I talked to my sensei about it, and she talked to her about it. So then she kind of acted right, but it really ended up me doing most of the project because I came up with the idea and the script. I was the one who talked to people. They were just kind of there, filming and whatnot. And we went through that, and one of the things that was fun about the project is that we did get to do like what you see in the videos where you get to walk up to random people on the street and be like, sumimasen. Why am I doing this? I have a mic in my hand. You get to run up to them like, sumimasen, and you want to ask them questions about how they feel about different topics and like pop culture topics or entertainment and stuff like that. So it was really, really fun. Especially when you're in a tourist area, like when you're at Mount Fuji or when you're at the temple. We went to, I think it was Ieyasu Tokugawa's temple. There was people there who obviously traveled there, and you talking to other tourists or Japanese people just from all around, and they're very much willing to talk to you. So I would walk up to them and I'd be like in Japanese, I'd be like, hey, so do the American tourists act right or not? and the older people would be like, oh, they're fine. And then the younger people would be like, no, they're very rude. And I like that though, because I like that they were willing to talk to me about this. And there was some times when I ran into this woman because she was like, excuse me. And she was like, my son speaks English. And so her son came up and he was like talking to us. And it was really, really good. And I was like, this is crazy. This boy was like, he had to be like 8 or 9. And he was speaking English so well. And I was like, why can't we do all the people who be in America, all the different cultures and languages be in America, and we can't get this shit straight? But he was like showing us all his Pokemon. He had a Pokemon book. He was like, these are my Pokemon, and this is Charizard, and this is Pikachu. And like, he was going through all the different things. And it was just so cute. It was cute. Or the kids who don't speak a lot, but they know how to say things like, hello, my name is, and they want to talk to you. So that was really sweet. And I appreciated it. And I felt very, very safe in Japan. Like, I'm from a poor Black community. Crime is, don't even ask me about it. My mom just told me today about somebody younger than me who got shot, and hours later they found their 2-year-old in their mother's blood. Like, I was just like, what the but at the same time I was like, well, this is kind of where we live. People get shot every day over here. So me being in Japan, it was a lot safer to where I felt like I could go on like late night walks by myself, which actually feels really good. I felt like I could go get lost in the city even if my GPS wasn't working. I'd be like, you know what, I'll find my way back somehow. You can hop on the train, go somewhere, hop on the train, come back. You get lost, you can ask people for directions. Now, what I will say is, if you don't speak any Japanese and you get lost, it's going to be a little difficult to get directions to get back, so try not to do that when you go. But I knew enough and I was comfortable enough to go up to talk to people when I would get lost, because I was out there by myself. Like, there was a lot of times when I would just walk around by myself, because the people who were there, they weren't my friends, they were just people who I took some classes with. So it was a very, very interesting experience. Obviously, I was nervous. One, traveling by yourself. Two, being in a foreign country by yourself. Three, you don't know the language as well as other people. So it was very, very scary, but it was also very exciting, and I really enjoyed it. It's really easy to eat healthy in Japan. Like, unhealthy food is expensive. So even though I would sit there and I would eat like a lot of food, or I went out to eat like twice a day because the program only covered breakfast. So I would eat a lot of food. I would go out to eat all the time, and I would eat Japanese fried chicken. I would eat Indian food. I eat burgers. Like, it seemed like I was eating like a lot all the time, and I lost weight. If you wanted a soda, the soda was like this big. So I was mostly drinking tea and water. I was eating fruits as snacks or as dessert. A lot of desserts were more fruit based than actual like ice cream and stuff. So it's easy to lose weight, especially when you're walking everywhere, because it's just common to walk places. So people would be like, hey, y'all, we going to Shibuya. It's about a 35-minute walk. And I'll be like, 35-minute walk? Yeah, that's fine. Or we go to some place and we all get drunk and we got to walk home. And it's like, whatever, we're walking home, because it was just safe like that. And I'm not saying everywhere it was safe. There was some places they warned us about, like Roppongi, that I didn't end up going to. But it was just safe to do what you wanted to do. So it was a really fun experience, but I feel like I would have had more fun if I wasn't so stressed about taking the class and passing the class and getting good grades. Because, that's just how I am. Like, I'm always like, I got to get good grades. I got to make A's. I got to make 100s. That's always how I am. So I was really stressed about that. And I think I would have had a better time if I had a friend with me who we could kind of be like, let's go here, let's go there, instead of me just going by myself everywhere. Even though it can be kind of peaceful, but it can also be kind of lonely. And then the racist white girl did try to cause problems for me by trying to tell other people that I was talking about them. But I was like, I don't even know y'all like that. How I'm talking about you. The fun thing about dealing with the racist white girl, and I'm pretty sure her name was like Katie or something. It was so basic. But towards the end, my sensei's husband worked with the corporation that they did something related to Pokemon. And so she had this like mint condition, limited edition, the only one in existence, a Pikachu that her husband had given her. And I don't have it here, but I'm tell you why. So basically everybody had to do rock, paper, scissors in Japanese, obviously, to get it. And I won it. And I didn't even want it. That's the thing. I didn't even want it. But I didn't want her to have it. So I went in for it and I won. And part of me, if my sensei wasn't there, I'm telling you right now, it would have been a different situation. Because what I wanted to do was I wanted to be like, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you because I know that you really, really love Pokemon and I don't care about it. So this is important to you. I'm going to give it to you. I wanted to do that and then be like, psych, bitch. That's what you get for being racist. You fucked with the wrong one. But that's what I wanted to do. But my sensei was there, so I wanted to act respectful. I didn't want to leave Japan on a bad note. But it was so satisfying to watch me win because she looked like she wanted to shit her pants. Like she was so angry that I got it. Of all people, I got it. And I just was like rubbing it in her face. I went around telling everybody, I was like, you guys, look, I won a Pokemon. I got Pikachu. Da, 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 da. Like I really rubbed it in as best I could while still looking like I was just excited to have it. But later on, like, I didn't give a fuck. I gave it to my nephew, who's a toddler. He did whatever with it. I don't know. I don't want it back. I really don't, because he's a toddler. He probably done put all kinds of germs in that thing. But it just goes to show, ain't no point in being racist, because you never know when the black person gonna one up your ass. But anyway, I left Japan. One of the things that almost ruined the entire trip for me was, in my college, you have to have a language. You have to take a language in order to graduate. It's one of the foundation requirements or whatever. And I didn't want to take a language because I wanted to learn Japanese. So what I was going to have to do was I was going to have to test out of the language thing by proving that I knew enough Japanese to have test out of taking any language courses. But what I found out when I was in Japan was that they wanted me to be fluent. Like, they wanted it to be like if I went to a college in Japan and they had a language requirement and I'm like, I speak English, boop, or the people who were Latino, they'd be like, I speak Spanish, check. They wanted me to be that level of it. And I wasn't. So I was really, really upset. And that was part of the reason why I felt like I couldn't enjoy myself, because I needed to learn so much Japanese. And when I came home that summer, I spent 2 months before college started again, just grilling myself with Japanese, just completely immersing myself every day. I was like, can't go nowhere, can't talk to nobody, watching Japanese on the TV, going through the activities, going through the books, everything like that. So that when the time came for me to take the exam, where I had to do a writing portion, I had to do a speaking portion with a native Japanese speaker, and then I had to do an online test where I had to, do a lot of reading and comprehension and all that stuff to prove that I knew enough language, basically as if I had studied the language for, I think, like 2 years or something like that in college. So 2 years worth of courses. And so I passed, thank goodness. Like, when I tell you I was everything Japanese, I was even listening to Japanese music. Like, I just was completely immersed in it. It was very, very stressful though, because I was like, I came back to college and it was my senior year, and I was worried about graduating and, everything. And I was like, if I don't get this language requirement, I can't graduate. So it really put so much stress on me in that moment that I felt like I could not have enjoyed Japan to the way that I wanted to. And I thought about doing the JET program, but part of me was like, do I really want to be a teacher? But that's kind of the only thing you can do in Japan, is be an English teacher if your Japanese isn't good enough to like do other jobs, or like if you're not working for a company where you're high up enough to where they would send you to Japan. It's really like you want to go through the JET program or any other program. And I thought about it, but I ended up graduating and going to another job, and then ended up in, my current job with HR. So I know that at one point I want to go back. And what's been a big struggle for me was that, yeah, I got my Japanese to a good point, but it was not to the point that I wanted it to be. It was not to the point where I could, watch the news and fully understand what was going on, or that I can read the news, or I can read novels or anything like that. It wasn't to that point. And when I tell you I maxed out of Duolingo, and I was like all the way, the bird was golden, everything was done. And they've updated it now, so there's a lot more kanji. And I gotten comfortable. Like, I did a homestay with a Japanese family where I was able to speak with them. So I got better at speaking. But then when I came back to America, I was not as good at speaking, because who was I talking to? There was no one to talk to. There was no Japanese people at my school except for one girl, and she was into Ariana Grande and all that other stuff that I'm not into. So there was nothing for us to talk about. And so I didn't really get to practice as much. And I spent a year completely not even worried about Japanese, just trying to graduate. And then after that, I spent time trying to have a job and be an adult, which is hard, that I didn't get to study. So I feel like I lost a good bit of Japanese that I picked up. Not the Japanese that I'd studied. The Japanese that I studied was still there. But the only reason I was able to elevate my language skills was because I was in Japan. I was hearing Japanese from the people around me. I understood how they talked, like the accents that they used, and I understood how to talk to them. So I got really, really good at that. But without being able to speak to people, I didn't retain it because there's a certain amount of things you can learn. Like you can learn grammar rules, you can learn vocabulary, but there was a lot of stuff like even the kanji that I learned while I was there that helped me navigate. Like if I'm going on a train, I'm trying to figure out where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to get home. Well, I know what the kanji for yoyogi is, so I know I get here, or I know how to get home if I could just make it to Shibuya. If I could just make it to Shibuya, I'm a 35-minute walk from home. I can navigate my way that way, or Harajuku, or any of the places that I'd been to a bunch of times. I was like, I can get home if I get to this place. And I don't remember those kanji. I don't remember a lot of the things that I picked up while I was there just from hearing people talk and talking to people. And yeah, and now I'm kind of studying more kanji and trying to learn like the words that I already know, but learning them in kanji so that I can read better. But I still don't really have anyone to speak with. So I definitely would want to, I don't know if I want to do a year, but at least do like another 2 months in Japan where I get to just have fun, where I get to go to the all you can eat places, or I can go to the all you can drink places, and I can do karaoke, and I can travel to the temples, and I can travel, back to Mount Fuji. And I did a homestay in Mobara, which is in Chiba. I could go back there, see my host family. I still talk to them. I feel like I really missed out on the experience of it all because I was so busy trying to do school. And so one day I hope to go back. I don't know. I might have to quit my job and go because I don't know what job is going to let you do a month or two. Yeah, Japan is not a place where you want to just do 1 week because you're going to spend the whole week just jet lagged. And as soon as your jet lag wears off, you're getting back on the plane. So it's not fun to just do a week somewhere. Like I'd have to do like how professors do sabbaticals and shit. Like I'd have to just be gone for a year doing something else. But I don't know where my future's going to take me. I'm in a very transitional place at my age and in my life where I could go anywhere and do anything. I can go to Canada, I can go to Mexico, I can do whatever. But I don't want to just yet because I want to figure out what I'm doing. Are you done? I would have loved to have the experience of just being in Japan for fun, buying things that I want because I like them. I have a few things actually. So I actually bought this geisha figurine from Japan. She was in a little souvenir shop, and she's cute. She wasn't that expensive at all either, and I really like her. And when I went to a Japanese festival, I ended up getting this, so now I kind of have two. So they're like sisters, like big sister, little sister. But other than that, I didn't buy a lot of souvenirs outside of Other than that, I didn't buy a lot of souvenirs outside of refrigerator magnets, postcards, little trinkets here and there. And I wish I bought more stuff. I really do. I wish I went there with the intention of buying stuff. But I just was so serious about it and elevating my Japanese language skills. And I feel like if I could at least spend a year or two in Japan, I could get my Japanese to a much better level to where I can be able to, read Japanese and watch Japanese shows where they're speaking really fast, like in the game shows, and I can understand it, because that's what's really frustrating to me. I'm also learning Spanish right now, and I'm learning it a lot faster because I don't have to learn a new writing system. I can just learn it and speak it. But what I want to ultimately get to is where I'm able to spend my time reading Japanese, watching Japanese movies, and then also spend my time watching things in Spanish and writing things in Spanish, so that they can both, I don't know one better than the other. I can still be growing in both those languages, but it's really hard to grow in Japanese when you don't know all the kanji, because then you can't read as much. Or if you're watching something in Japanese and you're watching it with Japanese subtitles, you don't know all the kanji. And And so that is something that's been a struggle for me. And when it comes to like speaking to people who are Japanese people are very scared to speak to Black people. Hopefully in the future, I'm able to go somewhere where I can mix better with other cultures and I can learn even more languages, because I do think it's a wonderful thing to speak multiple languages and interact with people from different cultures, hear their stories, read their stories. And one day I'll get there. But right now, I'm just going to focus on, doing what I can do in these COVID times. And, I got my job. I'm just being stable right now and stacking my money up so that if I do need to just peace out of the country for a year or two, I can do that. But that's all I want to talk about today. I just want to talk a bit about, my experience learning Japanese, my experience going to Japan as a Black woman. I might make another video specifically about it, things that I learned, but honestly, I wasn't there long enough to really be the person to educate you about being in Japan. I'm really more of like, these are my personal experiences, but I can't say, well, Japanese people are like this and they're like that. You really would have to go look up an expat or something. But thank you guys for tuning in for another video. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. Jane!